Hey everybody, my name is Connor. I'm an English teacher and a state exam corrector. In this video, we'll be looking at a Hamlet sample answer, which was written in response to a question that came up back in 2017. As always, it's a great idea to read the sample answer first before watching the video. By reading the sample answer, you'll get a flavour of the student's writing and you'll also become that bit more familiar with some of the main points that come up in the essay. Having watched the video then, it's a good idea to take a look at the annotated PDF version of the sample answer. This will give you extra information and tips on the essay, which won't have been covered in the video. Before we get into the sample answer itself, let's take a quick look at the question. The question reads, Shakespeare's play Hamlet has been described as a disturbing psychological thriller. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this description of the play? In your response, you should deal with all aspects of the statement, supporting your answer with reference to the text. Okay, so the first thing you should notice is the fact that there is actually only one task within this question. The task is to discuss whether or not you feel that the description outlined in the question is an accurate description of the play itself. It's very important then to recognise the fact that it asks you to what extent you agree or disagree with this description of the play. This allows you to both agree and disagree with the description of the play in your essay, which is very convenient for you, the student. A good tip when approaching the single text question is to remember that you're more than likely always going to be discussing your text's characters, its themes and its imagery, irrespective of what question comes up and how it's phrased. So now that we've become familiar with the question, let's have a look at the marking scheme. As already mentioned, this question allows you to agree or disagree wholly or in part with the statement. The marking scheme also outlines that the corrector is to reward students who engage with all aspects of the question. To ensure that you address all aspects of the question in your essay, I would strongly advise that you create a clear plan before you jump into responding to the question. Your plan should focus itself on the phrase disturbing psychological thriller. The corrector will then award you with the codes D, T and PT for any valid points you make in relation to Hamlet being or not being a disturbing psychological thriller. Remember, your goal should be to achieve these codes for each of your main body paragraphs, and remember, the more codes you are awarded, the higher your grade will be. So now that we've looked at the question and we've taken a look at the marking scheme, let's jump straight into the sample answer's introduction. Straight away I noticed that this student referred to the question pretty immediately in their intro. A sentence as simple as, after studying William Shakespeare's Hamlet, it is evident to me why the play has been described as a disturbing psychological thriller, shows me, the corrector, that this student is firstly aware of the question being posed, but secondly that their essay will be, by and large, agreeing with the statement and description. It also shows me that the essay will more than likely be on task, as the student shows an awareness of what the question wants them to discuss. I liked how this student provided an overview of some of the points that they intend on discussing throughout their essay in their intro. This student simply states that Shakespeare's use of language, imagery, and characterization all contribute greatly to this description. As a corrector, I now have a good idea as to the points that this student will be covering in the essay. You'd be so surprised at how many students fail to give an overview or an outline of their essay in the intro, so be sure to give the corrector a quick heads up as to what they'll be reading throughout your essay in your intro. I also really liked how personal this intro came across. By reinforcing the I pronoun through phrases such as I would argue that, I find to be disturbing and however I believe, this student for me ensures that the points he or she is making appear to be coming from an authentic, personal and genuine place. One piece of advice I would give to this student in relation to their introductory paragraph would be to shorten it down. I think it's a small bit too long given the time constraints of the state exam. A tip for you is to make sure your intro is nice and concise, be as direct as possible while still trying to refer to the question at hand, and giving a brief overview of your points, and as well try and be a bit personal. So now that we've looked at this student's intro, let's take a look at their second main body paragraph, where they discuss Hamlet's misogyny and his antic disposition, amongst a few other things. I was particularly impressed here with how the student discussed Shakespeare's use of dramatic tension, and how this tension supports the idea that the play Hamlet is a thriller. The student outlines the palpable suspense that is evident throughout the play between Hamlet and his most pernicious mother. The student here shows me that they understand the primary function of suspense, which is a dramatic technique often harnessed by Shakespeare in his plays. This for me was particularly impressive. The student discusses how Hamlet's madness or his antic disposition aided to the creation of tension as well within the play. I was particularly impressed with this point, as it shows me, the corrector, that they have a good understanding of the complex titular character, and also how this character's behaviour and mental state can indeed alter and affect the experience of an audience. I was again impressed with how personal this student's essay has read up until this point. By again reinforcing the personal pronouns such as I also find to be disturbing, this student sets themselves up nicely to be able to personally respond to the text in light of the question, which always pays dividends for the student when it comes to the allocation of codes and marks. I also really liked how this student integrated the quotes that they used throughout the paragraph into the statements they were making. These integrated quotes always read so much better than standalone or tacked on at the end quotes. Integrated quotes for me increase the essay's fluidity as well, which is important when you consider the marks on offer for the cohesion section of PCLM. Integrated quotes for me increase the essay's fluidity as well, which is important when you consider the marks on offer for the C section, which is the cohesion section of the PCLM marking template. The last aspect of the sample answer we're going to look at is the student's fourth main body paragraph, where they discuss how Hamlet's soliloquies and the relationship he has with his mother confirm that the play is indeed disturbing. The student effectively argues that Hamlet's self-critical soliloquy is disturbing in the fact that it uses very negative words to describe women, ultimately making women out to be anything but noble or virtuous. This quick reference to Hamlet's soliloquies, which always provide the clearest insight into a character for the reader or audience of a play, is very effective. I really liked how they refer to the language used and the thought process of the character to convey the point that the play, Hamlet, can indeed be described as disturbing. The student displays an incredible knowledge of Hamlet as a character, which I found very impressive. Within this paragraph alone, the student outlines how Hamlet's soliloquies, along with his relationship with his mother, both confirm how psychologically disturbed the titular character is throughout the course of the play. The student's reinforcement of the word disturbing and the convincing points made around this aspect of the question leave no doubt in my mind that this main body paragraph is deserving of the code DT from the marking scheme. Even the last sentence, which reads, "How can this utmost disdain for an entire gender be anything but disturbing?" was a powerful and persuasive way to conclude this paragraph and hammer home the fact that the paragraph was on task. 2 quick tips I would give to the student to enhance this paragraph would be to include even more examples of personal response in the essay. Remember to elaborate on your own insights into the various aspects of the play in light of the question being asked for maximum marks. Another tip I would give would be to just be a bit more realistic with the quantity of quotes being used to support the points that are being made in each of the main body paragraphs. Remember, 2 quotes per main body paragraph is plenty on the day of the exam. It would be pretty unfair and unrealistic to expect any more than that from a student given the time constraints of the state exam. Now that we've looked at a few different sections of the sample answer, I just want to quickly reinforce some of the video's take-home points. Overall, I was very impressed with the Hamlet essay. What worked well for me was the fact that the student convincingly and comprehensively addressed the question's tasks throughout the essay. The consistent link between description outlined in the question and Shakespeare's use of characterization and Shakespeare's use of dramatic techniques proved to be very effective and very impressive. Some bits of advice I would give to the student in order to enhance this sample answer would be to include more personal response. I'd also advise them to shorten their essay down and even shorten the quote quantity. In terms of the essay's length, I think 4 to 4.5 exam booklet pages for the single text question is plenty, and 2 quotes per main body paragraph when supporting a point being made is perfectly fine as well. Hopefully the content of this video has helped you in some way. Make sure to check out the annotated PDF version of the sample answer for even more info that wasn't covered in this video. Thanks for watching and chat again soon.